Our story begins with a quote from the Bible, telling us that Satan fell from the sky like lightning. Then, we see a woman talking in some foreign language in a dark place. This image is interspersed with an image of a graveyard. It looks like the woman starts eating hair. At the end of her ritual, she calls out to Satan. After that, our protagonist starts narrating how, looking back at things now, it all seems like a dream to her. It's more like a nightmare that she never truly woke up from. To this day, she is haunted by someone who she does not specify. She thinks she will always be haunted by her. While she narrates, we see two young girls running in a graveyard. At that moment, the narrator says that somehow, everything went wrong. We see a group of kids playing a game that revolves around ghosts. One of them starts running away. Eventually, the kids say the ghost arrives at midnight. They call out to the girl who ran away, but she is hiding. They are forced to look for her, despite wanting to go home. On top of that, they're in a graveyard at night now. The girl, Sally, has been hiding for some time. When she comes out, the kids see a lady that they seem to regard as a ghost. So they start running. Some unknown beings, that we can only see the silhouettes of, chase them. In the process of running away, a girl named Martha falls into a grave. Sally sees her lying injured, so she calls out for help, yet we are not shown if help ever arrived. During the opening credits, a car passes along an open road. We see that 10 years have gone by. A girl enters a house to greet her father and brother. She is Sally, now in her teenage years. Later, she looks at a photo she took out from a box. It has her image on it, along with some boy her age. Billy comments, saying he always liked that kid in the photo. He also says she should call him, which makes her ask why. She adds that they are only friends. That's how it has always been. However, Billy doesn't buy it because of the way Sally is staring at his picture. She puts the picture away before telling him to leave in a friendly way. We then observe some ghostly being move inside a room prior to Sally passing by. She decides to enter that room and sees a sophisticated replica of a house there. Her looking into it switches the scene to her lying in bed, with a young girl standing beside her. The girl is about to touch her, but Sally wakes up. Scared for some reason, she holds her bracelet to comfort herself. Following this, we see 4 kids riding bikes. Once they stop near the graveyard, one of them suggests they take the shortcut. Another one calls him crazy for suggesting that. He says a lifeless girl haunts it. The kid who suggested going through the graveyard is Tommy. According to his father, there is no ghost there. Still cautious, his friend tells him to take the shortcut. So Tommy starts doing exactly that. As he is riding his bicycle, we witness a girl lying in the graveyard. The boy keeps riding until he falls. Several newspapers fall out of his bike basket, revealing he is a paper boy. Soon the girl picks up a baseball to take Tommy's life using it. At a different time, Sally's dad, Charlie, asks her if she collected the newspaper and she admits she did not. Shortly after, someone knocks on the door. Sally opens it to see the boy from the photo, who is there to visit her. His name is Reed, and he wants to take Sally to school. Billy appears and comments that it is nice of him to do that. At school, we quickly see what some girls think of Sally when one of them tells her friends that the freak show is back. They are in a Catholic school, given that the teacher is a nun. The teacher talks about someone that will come like a thief in the night. No one knows the day or time of this being's arrival, and anyone who claims to know is a blasphemer. She also talks about a map that could warn them of the apocalypse. Next, she calls on Sally to start reading a passage from the Bible. It concludes with her mentioning the name Lucifer. After class, those girls who aren't too fond of our main character ambush her near her locker. The leader of this group is a girl named Zoe. She tells Sally they want to welcome her back. Since she has been away, Sally insists that what everyone is saying about her is not true. She wasn't in a mental hospital or rehab. Zoe is curious to know where she was, if not those places. Yet Sally does not want to talk about it. Switching the topic, Zoe reveals they plan on going to the woods later. Reed is coming too, who she says is with her. She also tells Sally that she has a lot in common with her. Therefore, there is no reason why they shouldn't be best friends. Sally doesn't want to go into the woods, but Zoe tells her to think about. In the next scene, Sally is walking around the graveyard with flowers. 2 policemen are also there, investigating Tommy's demise. The sheriff correctly reasons that the boy lost his life by his own baseball. He also thinks someone dragged him into the mausoleum for some kind of satanic ritual. After Sally places the flowers near Martha's grave, she sees the officers near the crime scene, and they see her too. The sheriff thinks it's a good idea for his deputy to keep an eye on her. Back at home, Sally looks at a photo of her early school years. It sparks a memory of a much younger Zoe pushing some girl down due to the girl being friends with Sally. When Sally comes to her aid, Zoe pushes her too. Because of that unpleasant memory, Sally decides to lie in her bed. We see a hand pushing a box out from under the bed for her to find. Sally soon notices it, causing her to check under the bed. Of course, she sees nothing there. She's not ready to see whoever gave her the box. When she opens it, she sees her birth certificate from there. It says she was born in Nova Scotia, a Canadian province. This information confuses her. In the woods, one of Zoe's friends says Tommy was her paperboy. Another girl says the police are investigating Sally. The reason is simple. She shows up in town after a long absence and a kid meets his demise at Martha's grave. The first girl who spoke badmouths Sally, in addition to saying she can't stand her. Zoe, however, is curious to know who Sally is and what is wrong with her. Some boy there tells Reed the same thing about Tommy losing his life now that Sally returned. but Reed disagrees because he knows her. She is a good person, based on his understanding of her. Later, Sally rides with her brother, Billy. He asks her why she wants to spend time with the girls who used to make fun of her. Her reason is that she just wants to be part of the group. She wants to fit in, not wanting to be known as just a person who sees ghosts. She tells Billy that everyone thinks she was in a mental hospital. She wants to be normal, even if she knows she isn't. Suddenly, Sally sees a girl standing on the road. She urges Billy to stop, so he does. Though for him, he stopped for nothing because he doesn't see anything. This makes him angry because they almost got into an accident. In the next scene, we see Zoe entering a fancy washroom where she submerges herself in a bathtub. While she's in there, she perceives a girl standing and watching her. This prompts the bully to emerge. Then, she sees the name Beelzebub written on the mirror, a name that was mentioned earlier in school. It is the name of a powerful demon. At school, the teacher reads from the Bible. Sally imagines Martha standing in the hallway and that mental image bothers her. In the meantime, Zoe draws in her notebook. She also writes Sally's name there just to cross it out. Sally then sees Martha at the door, with the imaginary girl placing her bloody hand against the window. The teacher calls out to Sally multiple times until she is taken back to reality. She asks Sally a question that she can't answer correctly, so Zoe answers it instead. Following this, Sally meets Reed in the graveyard. He asks her if she always visits Martha. After admitting that she does, he promises to deal with Zoe. He thinks it's best she hears it from him that he is with Sally now. Reed also points out that there is something different about her, which is great. He adds that she is a great friend along with being nice to everyone. Furthermore, he likes the many letters they wrote to each other during her time away. The talk eventually segues into kissing. In the next scene, Sally enters a building and informs the lady that works there about her dad asking her to do some research. She wants to receive some paperwork like birth certificates, but the lady informs her that she isn't allowed to give out that kind of information to minors. Sally will require her father's permission. Sally then tries to call her father, but the lady clarifies that she doesn't need to do that. The lady asks for her to wait for a few days. When Sally leaves, she drops a note by accident, and a girl picks it up. At Sally's home, we see the sheriff talking to Charlie. He mentions to the sheriff that his daughter is starting to ask questions. The lawman replies that it's time to consider certain possibilities, even the worst ones. Charlie agrees with him. On his way out, the sheriff promises to place a patrolman outside Charlie's house. Later, the girl who picked up Sally's note catches up to Zoe outside. She reveals that she found what Zoe was looking for, in addition to her knowing where Sally was in the time she was away. She gives Zoe a document that is interestingly signed by a group that calls itself Sisters of the Seven Demons. The girl further explains that Sally and Reed were writing letters to each other while Sally was away, so she gives the letter she picked up to Zoe. This information upsets her. After that, Sally enters her dad's store. She somewhat hesitates, but she ends up asking him where she was born. He turns around to ask why she asked such a question. She explains that she thought she was born where they currently live. Her father does not lie to her. He admits she was born in Canada. He talks about Sally being born earlier than expected, during the time her parents were on vacation there. He thought her mom would have told her. Since her mother got mentioned, Sally asks if she is still alive. Her dad isn't sure, but he feels like she is. A customer comes, cutting the conversation short. While Sally is alone, she finds a certain book. She opens it to see the words "Sacrifice a Pure Spirit" written there. It also has a picture of a person lying above a pentagram that has special symbols within it. Once her father returns, Sally quickly leaves. However, she wasn't very good at putting the book back in its proper place, so Charlie notices the book being a little out of place. At Sally's house, Zoe visits her. She wants to talk about Martha, so they go outside together. Outside, Sally learns that Zoe has seen Martha too. Even when she has seen her before, she tries to deny it. The fear of being sent away or being labeled crazy makes her anxious. Zoe explains that she noticed something has changed about Martha, particularly the fact that she became more menacing. She believes Martha wants something from them. She also shares the writing she saw in her mirror regarding Beelzebub's arrival. This alerts Sally because she heard that name in her dreams. Afterward, the sheriff gets a call from Charlie. As he talks to him, our attention is brought to a peculiar ring on the sheriff's finger, one that has a cross on it. After the phone call, he tells his deputy that it's time for something. Sally then visits Zoe's house, and the latter's mom opens the door to invite the girl inside. While Sally sits there, she notices a book on demonic possession and looks at it. The house she's in looks like it's from a fairy tale. Soon, Zoe's mom appears behind her to see what she's reading. She thinks the book is calling out to the girl, despite Sally explaining that she was merely looking at it. The lady utters something about being misunderstood. She also calls her guest Sally Ann for some reason. She thinks that's what they call her, not specifying who she is referring to. Going rather deep into her interaction with Sally, she starts touching her hair while saying it's pretty, like her mom's. Upon Zoe's arrival, the girl asks her mom why she is doing that. The lady responds, sternly warning Zoe not to meddle with things she does not understand. Back at Sally's home, we see her cradling a baby. After she puts the baby in her crib, she collects a box under it. The box looks similar to the one she got earlier. There is a ring inside that resembles the sheriff's ring. Later, Sally is at the kitchen. While she's there, our view slowly shifts to the baby's room, where a rocking chair starts rocking by itself. Sally hears it due to the baby monitor near her. This makes her go back to the room. She uncovers a blanket in the crib, hoping that the baby is underneath it. However, what she sees is a doll instead. Now, she frantically searches for the baby. Going downstairs, Sally observes someone standing in a room. Thankfully, it's only Zoe, holding the baby. The excuse she gives for being there is that the door was open and the baby was crying. But why did she leave a doll in place of a baby? For some reason, Sally never brings that up. Zoe shares that Martha was the closest person she ever had to a sibling. Martha's family raised Zoe until Martha passed away. We also learn she hates her mom. Sally suggests that together, she thinks they can help Martha. Shortly after, Zoe asks if Sally was ever intimate with Reed. Sally thinks it's an uncomfortable question to answer. They soon lie on the floor, and Sally reads from a note talking about Beelzebub. According to the note, he is one of the 6 fallen angels that disrupts God's balance. Zoe wonders what he wants, and even suggests that perhaps Beelzebub wants Sally. She hypothesizes that the demon is working its way through Martha to get to Sally. This prompts Sally to clarify that she isn't special, unlike what Billy told her previously. Zoe continues laying out her beliefs by explaining that to free a pure spirit like Martha, a pure spirit must be sacrificed. She thinks Sally is pure because she is a virgin. Zoe plans to spill some of Sally's blood on Martha's grave. It's not surprising that Sally thinks that plan is insane. Suddenly, Zoe sinks her nails into Sally's wrist to collect blood from her. Of course, this shocks Sally, though not to the point of them becoming enemies. Zoe then leaves the house with blood on her hands. She seems to revel in having acquired it, as if she wants it for herself. At Charlie's store, the sheriff reminds him that it's time they tell his kids the truth about something. These words scare the man. He fears that he might lose his family. Yet the sheriff points out that they knew this day was coming. At a different time and place, Charlie sits alone with Billy. He is upset due to the information he is about to reveal to his son. Since there is no easy way to say it, he dives right in by revealing that Billy's sister is not completely his sister. Of course, this shocks his son. Charlie has been fearing this day for years. He elaborates further with a lengthy explanation. From the beginning of time, there was a battle waged on Earth between good and evil. Their family happens to be in the middle of it. Billy almost cries, asking if his family is even real. But his father assures him it is. He believes the time has come for them to go into battle. Somehow Billy just believes him, without questioning how he knows all this to be true. He agrees, telling his dad he is ready. In the next scene, an officer drives up to Sally's house to watch it. Meanwhile, Sally is safe at home watching TV. While she watches, we see a statue of Mother Mary turning around by itself. Soon she decides to check on the baby. After seeing that everything is fine, she makes her way back downstairs. Yet she has to stop after seeing Martha in the other room with her peripheral vision. Upon entering the room, Martha is no longer there. What is there instead is the ghost girl's favorite candy. Seconds later, Martha appears, looking out the window to see the policeman sitting in his car. She uses her power to cause some trouble for him. It does not take long for Sally to come out to witness this. She panics, seeing the man in a lifeless state. At least she gets to see Martha, who she chases into the woods. When she catches up to her, the ghost uses her power to make the girl fall. Shortly after, Charlie arrives at the house with Billy. The sheriff is there to inform them that the officer he had stationed there is deceased. Putting Sally in a bad light, he reports seeing her flee the scene into the woods. After that, Charlie and Billy enter their house, seeing it in ruin. They try to open the door of the baby room, though something is making it exceedingly difficult. Lucky for them, the door opens by itself, prompting them to check on the baby. The duo is relieved to see she is fine. This situation shifts Charlie into his offensive mode, and the man collects his gun, ready to fight. Back in the woods, Martha informs the injured Sally that someone is coming for her. Afterward, Zoe arrives at Reed's house. She behaves slightly seductively while they are sitting on the couch. She starts touching him while talking about Sally. She talks about Sally and her being able to see ghosts. Reed doesn't respond. Just when he is about to be intimate with him, Zoe becomes demonic. The scene cuts right as he lets out a fearful scream. Following this misfortune, Charlie visits his daughter at the hospital. He finds out she was collected by the police. While hugging each other, she says there is something he needs to tell her. She knows he didn't tell her everything. Sally mentions that she found her birth certificate, which does not show her last name for some reason. Charlie starts responding by pointing out how complicated the situation is. His daughter wants to know what happened to her mom. All he can say is that she was taken by an unspecified entity. Then he reminds her that he loves her since she was given to them to raise and protect. We find out that Sally comes from a long, sacred bloodline. Her father reveals just how sacred it is by explaining to her that she is one of the descendants of Mary, the mother of Christ. The entities that are after her are being controlled by Satan himself. He also reveals that the night Martha lost her life was supposed to be Sally's last night instead. They wanted to sacrifice Sally. Charlie cries while hugging his daughter, trying to reassure her that she will always be his daughter. Next, he gives her a knife that was blessed by Mary after she fled Jerusalem. He then prepares to head out, with the intent of destroying some witches. Before he leaves, he urges Sally not to leave the hospital, so she promises that she won't. Subsequently, Charlie drives out to the graveyard. Martha seems to lead him where he needs to go. Although Sally promised her dad she would not leave, she ends up escaping through the window of her room. This action is followed by her getting into an ambulance to drive away. In the meantime, Charlie approaches a mausoleum and sees an unconscious Reed lying there. As he tries to take the boy, several witches rush to Charlie to give him a hard time. Soon enough, Sally arrives at the graveyard. She isn't the only one, because the sheriff arrives with one of his deputies. There is also a nun standing not too far from their car. The sheriff orders his subordinate to get blessed by her. He comes out of the vehicle to show he's serious. The deputy comes out too, to receive the same blessing. After that, the sheriff then orders him to head for the mausoleum. Unfortunately, the deputy doesn't live long. He gets claimed by the witches at the place he was ordered to go. The perspective switches to Zoe with her mom. The mother orders Zoe to eliminate Sally. While Zoe is looking around, Sally attacks her with a stick. But Sally didn't know it was her, causing our protagonist to worry about what she has done. Zoe retaliates by biting her neck. In pain, she comes across her father, tied to a cross on the ground. The witches rush her, preventing her from setting him free. Fortunately, Sally has her support in the form of the sheriff nearby. He starts firing at the witches with his shotgun, reciting a quote from the Bible prior to shooting each one. Once he's done with them, Zoe starts choking Sally. The sheriff can't help her with this one. Zoe must be dealt with by our heroine. While Zoe chokes her, she sees Martha beside her. Sally then uses her blessed knife to stab Zoe at the right moment. After that victory, the sheriff walks to the stabbed girl to put his ring on her forehead, all the while reciting another quote from the Bible. When he removes his hand, the mark of the cross stays on Zoe's forehead. He also removes the knife Sally stabbed her with. After giving it back to its rightful owner, he promises Sally that everything will be okay. In the morning, Charlie is about to be taken into an ambulance. He hugs his daughter, telling her he is proud of how she performed. Then she goes over to Reed, who is in a similar position to her dad. She thanks him for believing in her before kissing him. Our story ends with Sally driving away with her brother. She narrates the experience of Martha coming to talk to her in her dreams. Yet she never saw her again in the waking world as a ghost. Most people believe she is a demon. Unlike them, Sally knows the truth that Martha is an angel sent to protect her. The entire ordeal is her initiation into a lifetime battle with evil, claiming her place within God's kingdom. The last thing we see is Sally holding the ring with the cross on it.